I don't know if we're doing live stream here, but this phone isn't kicked on, so we'll just get started, right?
Yes, we are, Beth. One sec.
Okay.
Good morning, traders. Welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open to the public every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining us this morning. I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to happen today. So once I'm done speaking, Beth's going to come on, give you guys a little bit of a breakdown of the macro environment today, any of the news events that happen or that are going to be happening this morning or that happen over the course of this evening that we need to be aware of. I'll go through any of the bigger picture items, ETFs, commodities, etc. that makes sense to be looking at as well today. After that's done, I'm going to come on, we'll be going through the individual names that are gapping up, gapping down, looking at those names, building an action plan for them, as well as going through the SPY, the FANG, the VIX, the Qs, and the IWM. After that's done, Southbeach will come on, give you a breakdown of the macro environment from his perspective, as well as any individual names that he's looking at. And then we'll do a quick little recap of those names that I went over this morning, and we'll be ready to go. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Beth, and I will talk to you guys in a little bit. Beth, if you're ready, it's all yours.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, CPI, right? I think we're setting up for a nice rally, but unless this number is really horrific, I mean, the market has the yips, right? So we'll see. I told you what I did yesterday, right? I told you that I was writing against my puts or taking, a lot of profits on it. I also did some pair trades, SPY, Apple calls, Amazon calls. All of this is against Tesla calls. All of this is against my puts, right? So I felt that at this level, I'm locking in. I did it closer to being in the money, so the spread would make sense. Okay. We'll see what happens, right? Indonesia car sales 8.9% up versus last month where it was down. Inflation numbers, this is the final. It's spot on because it's the final. GDP month over month, 0.5, yippee. So we're starting to see constructive on the macro side economic data. Okay, so you can see expectations versus reality. So we're starting to see that. I think right now where we are at, which makes perfect sense to me, is that you are going to see businesses, and we've already started to see some of these offer letters are being rescinded. We're starting to see companies, in order to improve their profits, they're going to trim their payroll. Any fat that they can find on the payroll side, they're going to trim. They're going to become lean and mean, which, is a positive, right? The paradigm has been, we have such low unemployment, record low unemployment in quote unquote recessionary times. This has never happened before, right? If we are indeed in a recession, as Jeremy Siegel thinks we are, then unemployment by de facto needs to go up. I don't know, guys, gals, you don't understand how special the times we live in right now, between COVID, pandemic, quantitative easing. It's just absolutely stunningly remarkable. Commodity super cycles, all of these things are just really fantastic. And you should appreciate this. We're making history right now. And the FOMC is clueless. You go F-. What can I tell you? Until they get serious about inflation, we'll see. Okay, balance of trade. China, exports were up, imports were down, industrial production out of the European area, fantastic. And like I say, all the numbers that are currently coming in are better than expected. This 30-year mortgage rate is obscene what they're doing. Because if you look at history, right, they're basically jacking up more than 1% above where it should be in expectation, anticipation. Whatever, it's a business, right? And then obviously we have the inflation rates. Current account, do we have any talking heads? We have the Fed beige book at 2 o'clock. This will be interesting, okay? To see what the different districts are showing in terms of the economy. Be aware of that. All right, so let's take a peek here. This is the earnings whisper, the report, okay, that comes out weekly. This is the first time I've seen where all the different ratios, guidance, EPS. Now, granted, earnings season hasn't really started, but so far everything is below what it should be. Okay. Delta, fast, now long, you know the drill. And then we have, this is really going to be fantastic. Look at this. Tesla next week, Netflix next week, CSX. It's going to be great next week. It really is. And I will see. Which means revisiting a couple of charts we've provided recently. The first is the chart of stock market bubbles created by Greenwich Schleifer and you at Harvard University, showing a rather binary move after 100% rallies in a market within 2 years. It seems that we are in the crash category, but a long way to go. If you think about it, and this is what I've been showing you with the SPX. Historically, if you go back to the 1960s, late 60s, 70s, we're in the first quadrant of the move down. And this is exactly what it's telling us. And, you know, we'll see. I don't know, I can't reiterate enough, but, you know, if we're in a recession, historically, 37 to 40%. But maybe we're in a new paradigm, right? I don't know. All right, our friends at Longer Term Trends are printing some stuff out here. This is Ether versus Bitcoin, who cares? Okay, here's copper gold. Things are starting to reset a little bit here, as you can see. Copper gold spread versus the bond yields, and you can see it's coming down, right? Here's the yield curve, right? 2001, 2007. Here we are. So this is, don't forget that gold is an asset class, and I don't want to discuss its viability. Inside the United States, I don't give a shit about gold. Outside the United States, they do give a shit about gold. Okay, that's the reason why I look at it, because as an asset class right now, the US, if you look at it, gold versus dollar, right? Gold's not doing well, mainly because the US dollar is so strong. We'll see. We shall see. Gold, silver. This is really interesting. Silver is really becoming in like copper. So that's kind of interesting, I thought. All right, fertilizer prices, round trips. I'm actually thinking of looking, I got NTR on my radar. I'm not sure I'm going to do it yet. Here's small businesses compensation plans. You can see that. This actually hasn't moved much, but this has actually come back down. These are the plans, right? So in terms of what they're offering. S&P Utilities, the best year since, you guessed it, 2000. Makes sense, right? So this is really fascinating. So here's the balance sheet. Federal budget deficit was here, obviously with the quantitative easing. Now we're all the way back down here. People aren't looking at this very much. Okay, look at how this balance sheet has come down in terms of the budget deficit. Okay, I think it's notable. And here's reserve money supply, M2, year over year. Look at this. So, you know, when you look at a chart like this, you say, well, they kind of did a lot of the work that we would look at, right? Carolyn Borden, this is her SPX. I'm just bringing this to your attention that July 22nd, there is the next timing cycle and price. Here we have July 8th, July 15th as well. Look, this is consolidation of triangle. I have no idea which way this is going to break one way or the other. No idea. South Korea takes aim at inflation. Unprecedented. half point rate. Go. Fed's market is open to raising, whatever. New York Fed survey. This is fascinating. So it finds long-term inflation expectations are falling. Commodity super cycles don't work that way. Well, yes, you have pockets where it comes back down, but then it's entrenched. And what happens is the Fed gets the yips, right? And then instead of tightening, they basically cut. And that's when you get the next spike, meaningful spike on it, right? IMF warns again about growth forecast for 2022. It's all about consumer spending. We know this to be true, right? Shanghai COVID cases steady, though lockdown angst. I can't even begin to tell you this COVID policy, how ridiculous. All right, there you go. New Zealand, no Kiwis. 50 basis points. That's this is a lot. UK leadership frontrunner Rishi Sunak. Fantastic. This would be really something, right? Well, yeah, I'm not gonna say. Chinese home buyers across 22 cities refuse to pay their mortgages. This is amazing, right? I think it's amazing. I just think it's amazing. Here we go. Housing could provide more fuel for inflation. Yeah, whatever. OPEC's first 2023 outlook shows no relief from oil squeeze. By nominee, Buck. I'm sorry, not Buckin. What's his name here? Bug. Okay, whatever. Dividend payouts hit a record. That's what it looks like. Google, like I say, this is not a negative, friends. This is a positive. It's a positive for stocks. Okay. This will be the juice once they get themselves lean and mean. I don't know how much fluff there is out there, but like I say, I mean, you cannot maintain an unemployment level down here in a recession. It's just unprecedented. Twitter sues Elon Musk. Duh. Guess what? I just don't see how Musk doesn't end up paying. I don't know. What do we got? Delta declines after missing. White House seeks to provide context. Whatever. It's really funny. This stuff. This is called political jabberwocking. That's what it's called right now. Anyways, we believe the Fed has been making a mistake. Whatever, Kathy. Don't know what to tell you. Summer travel rebound. It's the Middle East. Bank earnings. Yes, we know. We'll see. Inflation likely soared. Yeah. What we got? Not much. Demand for big mortgages is shrinking. As home prices moderate. Snowflake is a buy and can show strong growth even in a recession. Okay, this is really fascinating. Okay, so last week, okay, we were flipped where it was 50 basis points, right? 9.9%. Now we flip to this. Crazy, right? Let's see what Flo has to say. All right, so don't forget it's OpEx. I cannot reiterate enough. You don't know what's going on, okay? A lot of these are rolls, hedges. I don't know what to tell you. I just don't know what to tell you. So this 1.13 million Qs, 280. I'm in the spies. I got some TQQQ on as well. I got a strangle on that. Got lots of strangles. I'm looking for a big move, so why wouldn't I do it? I basically had the puts on now and put the calls on. And the calls are close to being in the money, so it basically protects the puts. And I'm overweight on the calls now. GME, Novavax, whatever. GME, only 5-star. Insider buying, KDP could. Dr. Pepper. I love this KDP. I really do. I'm in it on my IRA. I've told you that. I've been adding to it. I just like it. To tell you. Well, Hashem, or else scalper. so I just have to say. Anyways, upgrades. This interests me. This SL Silica, US Silica. It's Morgan Stanley, guys. This is no schlock. okay, from underweight to equal weight. 47% upside target. This is definitely interesting. Watch BNTX. The price target though was lower. Whatever. So let's see what our friends are out there. This KBW dude is no joke. This Lazard, this downgrade, right? 69% accuracy, 19%. Yeah. If you were accurate 69% of the time, wouldn't you? Constellations is a buy, 67%. And Boston Beer is a sell. Kind of chapter supply. This also kind of interests me. It's a reiteration, though. I don't like reiterations. What do we got? Okay, so this is an incredibly accurate bear market end. Okay, so percentage of S&P 500 members above. Now they're looking at the 50-day, which is actually pretty important, right? Look at where we are. Yeah, okay. So when this does happen, down 20% or more from a multi-year high. Okay, look at this. Look at this. We haven't hit it yet. Okay, it hasn't happened yet. This happened in 2020. This is what was with the low in COVID, right? Just saying. This goes back to 1932, guys. This is a big deal. So this basically covers a lot of bear markets, right? So we're not there, but we have to keep an eye on it. All right, so what is this? Smart money continues to buy, or at least not sell. Really interesting. When I saw this, I said, what the? Look at this. Okay, a bevy of buying among smart money traders. That's institutional hedgers. That's, asset managers. Did anyone think? I mean, I was shocked when I saw this. What does it mean when they do this? It's all bullish. 1 month, 2 months, 3 months. I don't know. Insiders continue to buy their own shares. What does it mean? It's bullish. Okay, so most insider buying versus selling. Simon Property, Consolidated Edison, Warner Brothers, WBD, Nextera. Kind of interesting, right? I think it's interesting. Heat map is set up for a rally, but it's a bear market, and you can see how everything it has reset. All right, my friends, let's take a look here. Here are the bonds. As you can see here, yield curve is steepening today. Every day it does different things. Yields are up across the board in Europe, down in Japan, Hong Kong, and there we go. All right, what do we got? 5-year, nothing there. This is the 5-2 inversion, obviously. I'm suspecting we probably have to get down here, right? That's what I'm thinking. So when you think about it in terms of risk reward, with 3/4 of the way down on this, just saying. Here's the 10-5 on the inversion. Now this is what's really interesting because we actually haven't seen the low that we saw in April. I think that's fascinating. Right? Here you go, same thing. Here's the 35. Has not inverted yet. Here's the Chinese 10-year. Rates going down there, guys. And here's German. Just amazing. This is now, it was a 46% move down. Trust me, there's big money being made and lost in this. I don't think it's big money being made and lost. I think it's sloppy choppy, and I think people are getting their hands smacked. Okay, so what do we want to see? If the market's going to rally, I cannot reiterate this enough. The dollar has to abate and come down. Just saying. Here you go. Here's the Chinese yuan weakening some more to come. Here's cryptos. Whatever. I just can't get excited about commodities. Gold up, oil up. I got out of a lot of my puts on oil. I mentioned that yesterday. Natty gas kicking ass. Come on. Look at this. All these commodities, right, are green. Soybeans are down. Okay, whatever. Lumber's down. Yeah, cattle. This is expensive stuff, guys. Feeder cattle, you know. I'm just saying, this is what it looks like on a rotation within the commodity super cycle. All right, DBC still holding this 38.2% fib. Here's natty gas. Oh my goodness gracious. Now, okay, it's still holding the pivot. So, I mean, come on, we got it down here, guys. I mean, anyways. We're doing commodities today. This is UNG CTR. So this is what I'm thinking. Okay, in the physical versus the miners, refiners, I think there's a catch-up trade going to happen there. So here's Boyle. You can see we literally got it down. This, even my students got in this at 41.07. Seriously, come on. Just saying. Here's Equinor. Keep an eye on this one. This is the Norwegian natty gas company. I think it's a buy down here. I'm actually going to grab a little bit. I'm going to do it on the equity side for my IRA. His GLNG. They all look the same on the natty gas side. His KOS. This was a little bit more extensive, so I'm going to stay away from that. Next, same thing. So for me, you know, Equinor, GLNG makes sense. DLNG makes sense. Okay, we're going to get long this stuff. Look at how this thing really came in. I'm not touching it right now. Here's crude against natty gas. Obviously, you can see crude has been selling. This is an inverse, right? So if they're selling crude, they're buying natty gas. Don't discuss it. It's a heavily traded spread. Please, don't even discuss with me on this one. Okay, here we go. Here's crude. All right, so crude, interestingly enough, on the monthly, actually 93.53. That's where we stopped. That's why I started taking off my puts. Gosh, XLE. This is interesting. Okay, so XLE, and this is why I think you can have the refiners rally harder than the physical. When I look at this, look at how the pullback here right now. Okay, it basically came back to the 78.6% fib on this rally, right? It's holding, which is bullish. Right? We'll see how it plays out. Here's XLE USO. Once again, this is what I'm talking about, friends. Okay, this is the weekly. I said I think the refiners outperform the physical. Guess what? That's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened, right? Here we go, Chevron. It also basically 38.2% fib, didn't get all the way there. It's all about risk reward, right? So if I'm basically looking for a move down to here, and then you look at this is a no-brainer. 7/8 of the move has happened. Chevron against XOM, Chevron should bounce and outperform. So if you're looking, Chevron would be the one to go long. His XOM, it actually held up fairly well. Let's see what this fib looks like from here. So basically below the 23.6, kind of in no man's land. But you know, it's Oxy. Oxy's doing fine, only 23.6% fib. His OIH against XLE. OIH, you can see, they're just, you know, this is Schlumberger et al. Is just taking it on the chin. And you can see why this basically broke the monthly uptrend line. And let's do this. We're going to do this so we can see this. So I don't think, you know, I am doing some MLPs. I'm also doing some royalty trusts. I can't deny that. Here's gold against crude. You can see that gold obviously has been outperforming simply because crude's been selling off. Gold, interesting. Okay, we got a double bottom here, right? I don't know if you can see it, but it's right there. We have our stops in the money on our gold puts, FYI. So here's gold, silver. This is remarkable. I actually think silver is going to do a catch-up trade. That's what I'm thinking right now. Here's gold against lumber. Okay, so gold, lumber got rebuffed at this extension on the monthly. That means that lumber has been strengthening against gold, right? What's really fascinating right now is that we kind of pierced it, but we're still holding this extension. So I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. Here's GLD, GDX. Once again, I think we go down. That's why I think the miners outperform the physical. Is silver just taking it on the chin, right? All the way to the 200 EMA. I actually am gonna probably add to my starter on silver, FYI. SLV against SIL. So once again, you can see here that the silver has been really weakening. The miners have been weakening against the physical, right? Here's lumber. Let's talk. All right. So look, lumber basically held the 100 EMA on the monthly, right? It's struggling a little bit to reclaim the 50 EMA, right? It basically pierced, but then reclaimed the 78.6%. And you know, I'm a strong advocate for the 78.6% FIP, okay? I think we're in the bottom end of the range right now. I think this reward clearly shows us, okay, that, you know, a bounce can indeed be in line, okay? But work to be done, right? So we basically have to reversion to the mean back to the 21, 789, 40. Okay. All right. Copper, shit show, but interesting, 100 EMA. Okay. You would think with all the boo ha 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 about copper, we'd be all the way down here to the 78.6%. Au contraire, if you look at the low with COVID and you look at where we are right now, it's basically holding the 61.8% FIP. Just saying. Palladium, yeah, whatever. Platinum. Keep an eye on this. It's also into the 100. So look, the reality is, well, this is the bottom end of the Bollinger. The reality is, it appears, but it hasn't taken out the 78.6% FIP. Nickel. Okay, people going absolutely bonkers, ape shit over nickel. Okay. It's not even at the 38.2. I'm not including this because this really doesn't count. That doesn't count. This is the high that counts. Okay, 38.2%. Get a grip, guys, gals, friends. Come on. Dear Lord. Watch these nickel. Aluminum, 61.8%. This is where you would buy well-defined risk reward on the downside aluminum names. Okay, it's well-defined. Here's uranium. It basically is into a monthly extension. You can see that right now. Let's see if we can curl up. I still think the uranium narrative is positive and necessary. Oh, there we go. CPI out. 9.1. Ouch! Ouch, ouch, ouch. Well, I guess my puts are gonna work again, huh? Yeesh. All
right, Beth, ready to pop on here.
Oh, indeed. Okay, fine.
All right, guys, what's up? Morning. So we just got the CPI data that just came out. Obviously, that's why we're getting that big move in the market, and we'll see if this holds down. If it does, our puts are going to be worth quite a decent amount on that spread. So, but 9.1, pretty hot. We'll see what happens. I'm thinking we might get a little bit of a head fake here to the downside in the short term, but we'll see. We'll go over that in just a second. Market's going to be kind of doing its whipsaw thing for the next 10 minutes anyways. What do we got going on today, guys? If you're new to chat, haven't already done so, make sure to click the Discord link that's emailed to you. If you guys are coming in from the free Discord, you do need to leave the server and rejoin using the new Discord link that we did send you. Once you guys do come in, it's going to look like this. First area to go to when you guys come in, disclaimer section, give it a read, as well as go to this new to chat information section, scroll to the very, very top and read it from the top down. This is stuff that we'll go over when we do close down the YouTube stream. But just real quick, most important thing is the risk reward section. Go through that, understand how it works. Don't trade until you are applying risk reward correctly, because you can't make money unless you understand how that works and are applying it. Continue to scroll down. You have summary of how this chat works, breaks down all the channels, work on the left-hand side, so you can probably navigate the chat throughout the day. How to read alerts, options, and equity side right here. Below this, we have the options rules that we use Monday to Thursday. You need to understand those if you're gonna be trading the options. And then we have anyone with a small account, less than 10K, some rules with a smaller account, in our opinion, that will help you grow that smaller account, as well as how to pick trades from an options and equity perspective if you're trading in the room. And then lastly, high conviction trades. You have issues picking. There's 1 or 2 trades a day in there, and they're easy to follow. All right, what do we got going on today, guys? Tesla, Adobe, Team, DQ, Atra, and Xrtx. So Tesla gapping up in sympathy with the market. Adobe, basically outstanding financial profile. We got an article that came out talking about an outstanding financial profile, copious free cash flows. Team, price target lower to 249 at Piper Sandler, keeping overweight rating, stock gapping up on that actually. DQ gapping up in sympathy with energy names, or was. I'll have to take a look at that in a second. ATRA, Alteria's stock plummets pre-market following its inclusion of phase 2 MS analysis. And then Xrtx jumps on early encouraging data for rare disease therapy that are reported this morning. All right, let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint. Intraday, Tesla's obviously gapping down now. We got big moves. Our 375 puts are in the money. Pretty cool. And the SPY, we'll see what happens on that hedge though. But first, 2 on the equity side today that we're looking at, guys, are Tesla and Adobe. So let's have a look at these. Okay. So Tesla, big move here in the pre-market. Pivot to the downside today is going to be last day's low area, which is going to be that 685 support. This level is unable to hold. We got room towards 675.71. That level breaks, 663.71 will be tested. Able to hold, we look for a push towards the 692.90 to 785 on the upside. That level reclaimed 709.31, and then we can get to lower its last day's range high. Right now, overall, the Tesla going to be leaning bearish neutral. Why? Below EMA support on the daily looks obviously pretty ugly with the CPI data. So I'm thinking if it's unable to reclaim that pivot, where you're going to get continuation lower. So watch the pivot point, guys. That's going to be the main key thing to be paying attention to. So that's Tesla. Let's take a look at Adobe here. Obviously gapping down now with the sympathy with the market. Let's see where we got room to here. All right, 379 pivot to the downside today. This level is able to hold. You get room towards 388.84 to 396.13. Unable to hold, we look for pullback towards 368.69 to 363.15 on the downside. Actually, we're going to use 368.69 as the pivot. That level is unable to hold. We got room towards the 363.50 and 357.05. Able to hold. 379 to 388 on the upside. I'm actually leaning more on the bullish neutral side on Adobe, looking for a reclaim of that pivot at a push higher. So we'll see what happens in that regard, but that's what I'm thinking on that name there. All right, so that is Adobe, and that is, oops. There you go. So that's Adobe and that is Tesla. Let's take a screenshot of these two. Let's move on to the next. All right. Next two names, guys, that we're looking at today, Team and DQ. All right, Team DQ, let's have a look. So Team gapping down 188.51 a share. All right, 188.67 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. We do have room towards 185.09 to 179.59. Able to hold 194.41 to 198.47 on the upside, what we tested. Overall on team, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for continuation lower if the pivot point is unable to hold there as well. Let's take a look at DQ. So this was getting a decent little bounce, but still below EMA support on the daily, looks like at the moment. All right, let's take a look at the signature today. Yeah. Okay. So 66.89 pivot to the downside today. The sell was unable to hold 65.10. That level breaks. We see further continuation lower into the 63.41 spot on the downside. Able to hold 68.27 to 70.19 on the upside will be tested. Overall on DQ, I'm actually leaning more on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a hold of the pivot and a push higher. I think it's actually doing quite well holding up this this pre-market. And I'm thinking we see a little bit of money rotate back into energy names this morning. So we'll see what happens in that regard. That's team, that is DQ. All right, let's take a look at the next two guys. Next two names, ATRA and that Xrtx. ATRA, Xrtx, let's take a look. All right, ATRA, let's see what we got. So 416 downside. Oof. Thing fell off a cliff, did it not? It looks like we're at all-time lows here. Which you know what that means. We do some Fibonacci extensions to the downside. Actually, that should work. Perfect. All right. 450 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold 395 to 313 will be tested. Able to hold. We look for a push towards the 529 to 603 on the upside. Overall on ATRA, going to be leaning bearish neutral, looking for a continuation lower today if that pivot point is unable to hold. It's Xrtx. Let's take a look at this. So gapping them right now. It's at 210 a share. Pretty decent move actually on this thing. I think that should suffice. Let's take a look. Obviously get the 304s. Get rid of this level right here. Don't need that. All right, pivot to the upside today, guys. 202 levels able to hold. Room towards 249 to 305. Unable to hold 169 to the 143 on the downside. Overall on Xrtx, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point's able to hold. So that is ATRA and that is Xrtx. All right, guys, let's take a look at the SPY. And we're going to be looking at the daily on this as well, because there is definitely technical damage done. Well, what do you see, guys? Obviously, you see a bear flag, right? That is clear as friggin' day. So we broke the bear flag to the downside. Probably going to come down to this level today, which is the 372.30, which is that interflag bear range. And yeah, it looks kind of ugly. Will we be extended after today? Oh, yes. But it doesn't really matter for now, because it's not tomorrow. It's still today. $372.375, sorry, 33 pivot to the downside today. Unable to hold 372.71 to 370.37 will be tested. Able to hold, look for pushback to 378.32 to 380.16 on the downside. Overall on SPY, going to be leading on the bearish neutral side if it can't reclaim that pivot. If it can't reclaim the pivot, guess what? We go lower, simply put. It's not rocket science here. So that is the SPY. Let's take a look at Apple here. Wow. Okay. So Apple's pulling back into EMA support on the daily. 142.52 will be the pivot to the downside today. The level is able to hold towards 140.25. Able to hold 144.30 to 145.10 on the upside will be tested. Actually going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side, looking for a push higher if that pivot point can hold. I can see money rotating into some of these higher quality names still in the short term. So I'd be leaning more on the bullish side of Apple because of that. Let's take a look at Amazon. 106.05 pivot levels able to hold. 108.86 will be tested to 112.55. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback into the 103.60 to 101.24 on the downside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side if the pivot point is able to hold as well. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Let's take a look at Netflix. $171.37 pivot. Levels able to hold 175.38 to 179.73 will be tested. Unable to hold 165.11 on the downside. Overall on Netflix, going to be leaning more on the bearish neutral side today, looking for a retest to the bottom end of that range if the pivot cannot hold. So basically, you're getting a rollover on the daily chart back below EMA support, and yeah, it looks like it wants to retest the bottom of the pivot, or sorry, bottom of the range in the short term. Nothing really complicated in this situation. That's just where it has room to. That's Netflix. Let's take a look at Meta. Meta pivot 161.59, able to hold 166.70, will be tested on the upside, unable to hold 156.56 on the downside. Overall in Meta, going to be leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold as well. Again, another heavy looking chart on the FANG. All right, let's take a look at Google. Well, this certainly broke some EMA support, didn't it? Google pivot 22.55, levels unable to hold 22.30 to 21.74. On the downside will be tested. Able to reclaim 22.87 to 23.26. And right now, going to be actually leaning more on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a little bit of a bounce, retesting that pivot and see if we get above it. So that is Google. All right, let's take a look at Iwmqs and the VIX. VIX, obviously a little bit of a push to the upside today. Reclaim the 50 MA on the daily. We're flagging out. And now we got to see if we break certain resistance levels. So 28.89 breaks. We got room towards 23 to 31.15. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 27.84 to the 26.40 level on the downside. Not leaning any particular direction, but watch the pivot on the VIX, guys. Extremely important level today for continuation higher and for the market to get continuation lower. So that is the VIX. Let's take a look at the QQQs. 279.88 pivot to the downside today. This level unable to hold. 273.76 will be tested, able to hold 283.59 and 287.49 on the upside. Overall on the QQQs, going to be leaning bearish neutral if the pivot point is unable to hold as well. And then let's take a look at the IWM here. All right, 168.66 pivot, levels unable to hold. 166.73 to 165.24 will be tested. Able to hold 170.51 to 171.80 on the upside. Overall on the IWM, I'm going to be leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold. So that is the IWM. So that's the SPY, that's the FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today, guys. We shall see what happens going forward today. Just because I have a minute, I'm going to do Microsoft and see if I got a time to do NVIDIA as well. Obviously, Microsoft pulling back. 249.61 pivot, levels able to hold. 255.97 to 255.36. Unable to hold 246.22 to the 243.03 on the downside. I'd be leaning bearish neutral on that if the pivot cannot hold as well on that name, okay? And that would be that. So I'm going to go ahead, guys, pass it over to South Beach for a little bit as I type up that pre-market action plan. We'll do a quick little recap when I do come back on before the open, and then we'll kind of go from there. So South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours, and I'll talk to you guys in a little bit.
Okay. Hey, guys. Okay. So I love down openings. We got one. Let's see what happens. Numbers came out. We'll talk about it in a minute. Let's look at the bond market first, okay? 10-year yield is at 3.05. 2-year yields is 3.19, okay? Again, as I say every morning, if we're not in a recession, we're going into a recession. I don't give a shit what these guys say, okay? That's reality. The Fed is going to make us go into a recession because that's the only way you're going to tame inflation, okay? If you look at all this shit that's going on with the numbers and oil prices and whatnot, okay, we have a government that refuses to invest in oil, all right? It goes into everything. And you got Biden hat in hand in the Middle East. The guy's a freaking disgrace, okay? We need to invest in our energy infrastructure. We need to invest in the future. We need to get in the game. We refuse to do it. Inflation, the only way to stop it is to put us into a recession. That's reality, guys. Sorry, but that's reality. If you don't agree with me, you're probably wrong. And I don't say that a lot, but in this particular case, I mean, oil is really, it's almost like the blood in your body, you know, transportation, you know, everything, you know, to make, well, so many goods, these chemical companies, everything they make is based on oil. All right. And we refuse to invest. All right. I don't know what to tell you. It's upsetting. Okay. So that's the yield curve inverted. We're probably in a recession, but it's really mild. I think he takes us into a deeper recession. Let's see how it goes. Okay. Rates are up across the board. But look at reality, guys. Okay. The 10-year here is 3%. Okay. In my lifetime, 3% was kind of on the low end of the range. All right. And if you look at Europe, which in my opinion has a far worse situation than we do, we're just negligent in our quest to increase oil production. They don't have the ability to do it. So their situation is entirely worse than ours. And if you look at the 10-year rate in London, for argument's sake, it's 2.16. Okay. In Germany, it's 1.21. Really? If our inflation is 9%, what do you think theirs is? And what do you think it's going to be this winter if this Russia thing continues? A 1.2% 10-year in Germany is laughable. Okay? They're trying to crush the euro so that they can export their way out of this problem. That's what they're trying to do. That's their game plan. Okay? They don't verbalize it, but it appears to me that that's the only reason that you can come to that the 10-year in Germany is 1.21, when their inflation rate is probably north of 9%. So their real rate is a negative 8%. That's even more than it was in the throes of the pandemic. Does that make sense? No. So that's the bond market, guys. Let's see if it's getting close to inverting out of curiosity. 45, no, it's not even close. I don't know what to make of what they're doing over there, honestly. Okay, so that's bonds. Let's move on. Okay, let's look at commodities. Okay, oil's only down a little bit. I would have expected it to be down more, but it's not. And gas is up 37 cents, but it has come down a long way. But these are things that, they're essentials. It's like toothpaste. Gold, the big, what's it called for inflation? Hedge for inflation. Straight down affair. Okay, so if you guys please stop thinking of gold as an inflation fighter, it is not. Okay, copper 326. That's down a lot from 5. Tells you, industrial metal, etc. Looking at the agricultural commodities, it kind of mixed to down a little bit. Wheat's up a little bit, corn's down a little bit. These things have come down quite a bit to pre-Russia, Ukraine situation levels, and that is the commodities. Okay, currency wise, dollars up, of course, again against North American currencies. It's up against the yen. You want to talk about a joke? The 10-year in Japan is 0.25. These guys want their currency crushed. Okay, they want to export their way out of it. U.S. dollar against China is up a little bit, 673. The euro is at par, down. Dollars up a little bit there. The British pound has gotten murdered as well, etc., etc. Okay, that's currencies. Crypto down again, another poor excuse for a hedge against inflation. 19,000 in Bitcoin down 1%, Ethereum down 1%, Solana down 2%. And let's look at the foreign markets. Okay, let's see. You got the FTSE down 1.5%, 104 points. The DAX down 2%, 265 points. Russia, I think, was making a new low, guys. Yeah, this is the I think the level it went to when you remember when it spiked down when the war just started. It's back to those levels. Okay, it looks like it's going to break it. This is right there, 2073. Okay, and looking at Asia, we have the Nikkei up 0.5%, and China and Hong Kong were basically flat. Okay, so that's the backdrop. All right. So this dollar thing is going to really hurt earnings for a lot of our companies. Okay, when the dollar's weak, it's a tailwind. When the dollar's strong, it's a headwind for earnings. So you have a lot of things that are going to affect, especially these companies that really do a lot of business overseas. Okay, I don't think they have pricing power. And with the dollar as strong as it is, when it converts back, it's definitely you're gonna see earnings come out and you're gonna say we lost 20 cents due to currencies or stuff like that. Okay, you're gonna see a lot of announcements like that for sure. Okay, so the banks and the Fed, you have no Fed speaking today, and they're raising rates a whole bunch, and that's the way it is. Okay. China, I didn't see anything out of China to speak of. I think they're saying employment is their number one concern now, to get people to go to work and have jobs, and I don't disagree with that at all. Russia has that meeting with Iran coming up. Nothing good is going to come out of that. I didn't hear Mike Mayo last night. Twins, if you can enlighten us. I think he's probably my favorite banking analyst because he tells it the way it is. So if he's Twins is going to write that. I didn't see it, and Mike Mayo, I really like him a lot. Okay, so that's Russia. Crypto. What did Charlie Munger? Charlie Munger had a great quote last night, comparing buying crypto to investing in nothing. He is a piece of work. We'll see if he's right. For now, he looks to be right, but that could change. I have no feel for crypto one way or the other. I've never invested in it, so I just didn't see it. But I'm sure there's some validity to some of the technology that these guys are going after for sure. But we'll see. Okay. Oil. We discussed the virus. They're saying that this variant is really, going to be hard to bottle up. So, and the vaccines don't work well against it. So, not a good thing there. Mr. Market yesterday, we had that big sell-off late in the day, right? The market was doing fine, and then it got smashed in the last half hour or so, maybe 45 minutes. On the upside, we had airlines, gambling stocks, hotels, and cruise lines. On the downside, you had high beta, right? You had banks, high PE tech, FANG was crappy, semis were a little soft, drugs, big oil and E&P, retail, HMOs, and rails. Okay, so they hit them late in the day. They looked pretty good at 3 o'clock, and soon thereafter, they hit the skids. Let's see what Twins is saying. We'll have a shitty quarter because year-over-year comparison, but sets up well for the next 2 quarters. All comes down to loan loss reserves and health of consumer economy. Says mid-level regional banks play better. Okay, that's good to know. Thank you, Twins. I appreciate the input. Okay, so that's that. So like I said, Biden's in the Middle East. And I'm really concerned about this dollar as far as when these earnings come out. The earnings start in earnest really tomorrow before the opening. We have a shitload of good names: Conagra, Ericsson, First Republic, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Taiwan Semi. Okay, all report tomorrow. Then tomorrow night we have nothing, and then Friday we have a whole slew of numbers also in Bank of New York, BlackRock, Citibank, PNC, State Street, US Bank Corp, UNH, and Wells Fargo. Okay, so anyway, getting back to where we were. All right, BlackRock sees a long stretch of market volatility. The U.S., the White House is saying $140 a barrel oil if Russia has no price caps. I don't understand how you have a price cap on Russian oil. I don't understand how you negotiate that. I'm really confused by it. But if you guys can tell me how do you do that, I'm all ears, because I don't get it. So that's BlackRock. Twitter. Okay, the more I read, the more I think Mr. Musk has no chance to win this in court. There was a gal on TV today that said something. She's some kind of legal expert. She says this could take a year to get to court. Now, in the things I read today, Twitter is trying to get it to court by September. I don't know how this is going to work, guys. I'm really not sure. I had always thought that Delaware was kind of quick to identify problems and litigate, but she's saying a year. Twitter, there's so many people leaving Twitter that it could be a real mess. Okay, and I think Musk is going to lose. Does he lose for 54.20? If it goes to court, he may. If he's smart, he'll negotiate a lower price, because in my opinion, the more I read, the more I think he has no shot of winning that case. Okay, that's Twitter. CPI numbers. Year over year, 9.1 versus 8.8. Month over month, 1.3 over 1.1. Core came in 0.7 versus 0.6. And core year over year, 5.9 versus 5.7. And these guys on TV keep relaying the fact that there's no relief anywhere. Rents are high, apparel's high, gasoline, food, insurance, new vehicles, healthcare, et cetera, et cetera. Nothing is being spared as far as higher prices. So this is a problem for the Fed, and that's that. Okay, numbers wise, we had this IS got taken over by Unity Software. Stock got taken over at around $3. It was as high as 13. Stitch Fix had a directed by 1 million shares. MYGN had positive data, and I told you about the Twitter. Okay, moving on the short side, you had Fastenal. They supply construction materials. This had a bad quarter. They're down. Delta, not so great either. That's down. Now, this is probably the best run airline, so it doesn't bode well for the rest of them. Letter U, I told you. DM, CFO resigns. Not a good sign there. ATRA and phase 2 was a bust. HGEN had bad data from a drug as well. So those are your biotech disasters du jour. TXMD, expiration of a tender offer, and that's that on the negative news. Okay, I do love down openings. I love to buy down openings. Hopefully we'll get a chance and they'll rally back. I'm thinking maybe this inflation is at its peak of, bad inflation, and the numbers will get better from here. I'm hoping that's what the narrative is going to be. It may be, I wouldn't be surprised. We'll see how that works. What else do we have? What is Kathy's still buying DNA, ATI, and BFLY? You had insider buying in Stitch Fix, which I told you, and SBOW. You have 3 syndicate deals, ILAG, NCPL, and PLRX. The latter 2 are secondaries. Okay. Now, basically, the research, I think these guys are numbskulls, but let's talk about if we can garner anything from this. Caesars, start with that one. Goldman came out yesterday and said it's the cheapest stock that they could find. Today, KeyBank says it's the most expensive gaming stock. I mean, how do you deal with these guys, right? You have 2 guys looking at the same company. One says it's the cheapest stock of all the stocks that Goldman covers, and another guy says reduce expenses, exposure to gaming, and this is the most expensive gaming stock. I don't understand. They're looking at the same company. How do they walk away with completely different analysis? It's hard to believe. All right. But let's look at the overlying trends here. A lot of companies, a lot of analysts looked at these conglomerates and they lowered numbers. And that makes sense to me. Why? Because these conglomerates do a large percentage of their business overseas. Okay, that's what they do. And if they're producing in the US and selling overseas and the dollar is strong, you got a problem. Okay, so I believe that the cutting of these stocks is smart. All right, they're going to all have this addendum telling you what the loss was due to currency translation. All right, so Bank of America did a deep dive on these stocks. Who else did a deep dive? There were like 3 different companies. Deutsche Bank did a deep dive on these stocks. and there was someone else, but it doesn't really matter. They all came away with the same conclusion. Okay, at least there's consistency there. As in another group, this what are they called? Private equity firms. Everybody's lower numbers than those as well. Okay, thinking macro uncertainty, fewer deals, stocks on their books are kind of going to be softer, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so that's the two groups that basically everybody looked at. Bank of America was the other one. Okay, they did the same thing in the conglomerate names. Okay, so that's that. Citibank downgraded FCX, citing copper prices. And they went to an SCCO, they went to a sell. FCX, they went to a neutral. Okay. DLCN, Goldman went to a sell from a buy, demand pressure. Raymond James, is there any other on the short side? Keith Brewett, who I really like in these kind of names, Lazard goes to a sell. Credit Suisse, a sell at Morgan Stanley. This company is just a real piece of garbage. Do I have a view here if rates don't spike and stay range bound on equities? Yeah, I think that the higher rates go, the worse it is for equities. But and so if they didn't go up, I would think equities would be a better bet for sure. No question. Okay. I kind of do think that this is peak inflation, except for the oil situation. I mean, how much can you take, right? And the Fed's going to be aggressive. So we'll see. All right. They were talking about, this was kind of interesting. Let me get off track. There was an article this morning that basically said that when bonds become more attractive than stocks, then that's the time to buy stocks. Okay. And we're not there yet. All right, so with the bond yield of whatever it is, what was the 10-year 3% arguably, and the yield on these stocks is higher than that, making stocks more attractive. They say when that gets more into balance, that's the time that you capitulate and buy stocks. We'll see. All right, I just like down openings because I think you get a chance to buy things cheap. And I was waiting for that this morning. I came in with virtually nothing, and we'll see if we can get a bounce. Okay. That's really it. All right. So I'm going to give it to Spartan, and let's have a good day, guys.
All righty. Thank you, South Beach, guys. Morning. What's going on? So let's take a look what we got going on today, guys. Couple different things. If you guys are new to the chat and haven't already done so, make sure to click on the Discord link that's emailed to you when you come into chat. It's going to look like this. First area to go to when you guys do come in is the disclaimer section. Give that a read, as well as this new to chat information section. If you're coming in from the free Discord, be sure to click on the Discord link that's emailed to you, and you'll have to leave the server that you're currently in if you are in the free server, because you will not be assigned the new roles until you do leave the server and click on the new link that was sent to you. All right. When you guys do come in, like I said, go to the new to chat information section, give that a read. Let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. Pre-market tickers on watch, a couple different things. Everything's posted. If you guys are watching the YouTube stream, you can simply just pause it and read the pre-market notes here. You see all the charts posted that we went over. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. Tesla, Adobe, Team, DQ, Adtrend, Xrtx. Tesla gapping down to simply with the market. Adobe was gapping up, obviously gapping down with the SPY and the CPI data that came out. Team price target lowered to 249 at Piper Sandler, keeping overweight rating, gapping down with the market right now. DQ actually gapping up still with energy. Atra stock plummets, pre-market falling, inclusive phase 2 MS analysis. Then Xrtx jumps on early encouraging data for rare disease therapy, gapping up. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. So the first two we're looking at today, guys, are the Tesla and the Adobe. So let's have a look here. So Tesla gapping down, obviously 685.87 pivot, unable to hold 675.71 to 663.73 will be tested. Able to hold 692.90 785 on the upside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning on the bearish side today, looking for a continuation lower. Sorry, guys. Adobe, let's take a look at what we got going on here. 368.69 pivot levels unable to hold. 363.15 to 357.05 will be tested. Able to hold 379.02 to 388.84. Overall on Adobe, going to be leaning bullish if the pivot can be reclaimed. I think we can get a little bit of a bounce on that name today. Let's take a look at team. Let's take a look at DQ. All right, team. 188.67 pivot, unable to hold. 185.09 to 179.59 will be tested. Able to hold 194.41 to 198.47 will be tested on the upside. Overall on team, going to be leaning bearish, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point can't hold. DQ 66.89 pivot, unable to hold. We got room towards 65.10. That level break 63.41 will be tested. Able to hold 68.27 to 70.19 on the upside. Overall on DQ, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side if that pivot point is unable to hold. Next two names, guys, ATRA and Xrtx. So ATRA 450 pivot, unable to hold towards 395 to 313, able to hold 529 to 603 will be tested on the upside. Overall on ATRA, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today if that pivot point is unable to hold. And then Xrtx, guys, pivot 202, able to hold 249 to 305, unable to hold 169 to 143 on the downside. Overall in Xrtx, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side there, looking for a continuation push higher. Let's take a look at the spine of the fang. One sec, I'm just gonna grab my glass of water. I just left it across the room. All right, there we go. Okay, SPY guys, 375.33 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. I'm going to take this out as well. SPY 375.33 pivot to the downside today. This level is unable to hold. Room lower into the 372.71 support. Breaks, we see the 370.37 tested. Pivot holds. Room higher into the 378.32 resistance. Breaks, we see the 380.16 tested. We're going to be leaning bearish if pivot can't hold. Alrighty. Perfect. All right, let's take a look at the FANG here. Apple. Pivot to the downside today, guys, is going to be 142.53. Levels unable to hold 140.25. Able to hold 144.30 to 145.10. I'm thinking this actually does hold. It's testing EMA support on the daily, has room to bounce. So that's what I'll be looking for today on Apple. A little bit of a push higher off of that pivot point, as long as it does hold. Amazon, let's take a look at this. Oops. Pivot to the downside today, 106.05. Levels unable to hold 103.60 will be tested. Able to hold 108.96 to 112.55 on the upside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a push higher if the pivot point can hold as well. Let's take a look at Netflix. Pivot downside today is going to be 171.37. Levels unable to hold. We got room towards the 165.11. Able to hold 175.38 to 179.73. Leaning bearish there. Let's take a look at Meta. 161.59 pivot, unable to hold. We got room towards 156.56. Able to hold 166.70 will be tested on the upside. Leaning bearish there. Take a look at Google. Pivot to the downside today is going to be the 22.55 level. Levels unable to hold 22.30 to 21.74. Able to hold 22.87 on the upside. Overall, Google leaning bearish. neutral on that name as well. Let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM, my friends. All right, VIX pivot is 28.89, level holds 30.23 to 31.15, unable to hold 27.84 to 26.40 on the downside will be tested. Overall on the VIX, going to be leading no direction, but looking for using it for direction, I guess, on the SPY is what we typically use it for, guys. QQQ pivot 279.88, levels unable to hold towards 273.76, able to hold 283.59 to 287.40. On the QQQ, sorry, going to be leaning bearish neutral if the pivot can't hold. And last but not least, guys, IWM pivot 168.866, levels unable to hold 166.73, able to hold 170.51 to 171.80 will be tested on the upside. Overall on the IWM, I'm going to be leaning bearish neutral, looking for a continuation push lower if the pivot is unable to hold. So that is that. So we'll see what happens, guys. Should be an interesting day. Obviously, market's looking bearish at the moment. Watch the pivots. That's going to be the main thing for direction today. And we could see a little bit of capitulation to the downside if those pivots are unable to hold. So that will be the key thing to watch, in my opinion. All righty. So guys, thanks for watching the YouTube stream. We do this every single Wednesday.